Welcome to, I guess it's kind of a Technique Tuesday, but it's part 2 of our Learning to Free Motion on your domestic machine. We're going to work up towards having everybody work on to this lovely Dream Big Dahlia panel. Just in case we have repeat viewers, I know you saw this part when I showed you the butterflies that overlap, and just to prove I actually do finish things, so this is, I'm just going to slide her around like that. That's what this was designed to do, was focus on another piece of vintage jewelry. It's not very big, I'm going to say 20 by 24, little vintage handkerchiefs in there, some silk that I had. So yes, I actually finished it. Woohoo! And this is wool felt embroidered and then appliqued on. And if anybody's interested in learning more about doing that, just give us a quick email to Linda at Education, because I think it's a wonderful technique for embellishing your quilts. So stage 2 of learning to quilt free motion on your domestic machine. We're going to talk today about batting. Batting is the stuff that goes in the middle. So we here at my sewing room have a pretty good variety of batting. We don't have quite everything that you might find elsewhere, but yeah, we have a lot of good choices. So I have my little, I'm going to hold this up, this little thing. We don't have all of these, but we carry the Dream thing. So if you're used to saying Warm and Natural, that's just a different brand of batting. Our line is from the Dream company, but that doesn't mean that it is just cotton. So what's the difference? All right, let's see what we got here. We carry 100% cotton batting. So there's a piece there. There's another piece. There's a reason why we have all these little pieces. Now we carry the Dream cotton in 3 different weights. We carry it, and I did some little samples up for you to show you how things look different. I'm going to hold that in the light. Yeah, that's working pretty good. This is the Dream Cotton request weight. So that's the very thinnest batting in the 100% cotton that we have. It's ideal for baby quilts. It's actually really good to put in the middle of a quilt where you're using fireside or cuddle on the back, and you don't need a lot of batting. You just need a layer to keep things from slipping around. So you can kind of see, you can see the quilting on that. If I fold this, still folds up, still nice and soft and flexible on that one. Then we can get in the 100% cotton, we can get what we call the number 4 or select cotton. In the looks, doesn't really look that much different to the number 3. It's a wee bit heavier, still has a little bit of loft, isn't going to make a big difference in your quilting. It might make your quilt a little less flexible, because the flexibility in your quilt is partly a product of the batting and partly a product of how close together things are quilted. So all of my samples were quilted the same density, so it's a good way to judge how drapey your quilt is. You can see there the number 3 just a little bit softer than the number 4. Now I didn't bring out a sample. We have also in the cotton a number 8 batting. It's really thick and really stiff. It would be very heavy to use in a quilt, but I'll tell you, it makes great slippers. I use it for slippers. It's wonderful stuff. Warmer even than those things that you can buy in the store, those fuzzy, fluffy, socky things. Yeah. Make your own homemade slippers with the number 8 batting. So maybe you don't want to use 100% cotton. Maybe you like a bit of a blend. You're concerned about the washability. So we also have an 80-20 blend. So it's 80% cotton, 20% polyester. I'm going to hold that in the light so you can see how it looks. Tip it up a bit. This one is by the Dream Company. It's the Dream 80-20. There it is on the edge there. You can see it. And it's about the same thickness as the number 4 cotton. Still gives a reasonable amount of texture to your quilt. Folds about like a number 4. It's a little bit stiffer. You can see we're not folding quite as well on that. A good all-purpose economical batting. If you don't mind a bit of polyester in your quilt, great for washability. And what else we got? Oh, all these goodies down here. What if you want the polyester batting? Now we don't carry, I think you can still find at some places, that big fluffy, looks like somebody unstuffed a toy. That big puffy polyester batting. It's not used very frequently anymore. It's still possible, but it's really much more difficult to quilt the way we quilt nowadays. So this is our poly batting. You can see if I hold this edgeways on, I got a little scrap of something caught in there. There we are. And you know what? I'm just going to hold up this piece. The polyester is a white batting. The thing about it is, it's fine in quilts, but it can be quite inflexible when it's quilted closely, quite dense. Where I like to use poly batting is wall hangings. So if you want to do a wall hanging and you want it to lay nice and flat against the wall, go with the poly batting. The other good place for this is placemats, table runners, because then it's like washer dryer back on the table. You don't even have to worry about ironing them. So that's our poly batting. Now what if you want batting that is loftier, fluffier, puffier, to really show off your quilting? We've just received a lovely, lovely shipment of wool batting. So you can see right away how much deeper the little channels where we've quilted are when you have the wool. It's loftier, fluffier, and really shows off your quilting. It's also moderately flexible. So when somebody comes in and says, I don't know what kind of batting I should use, my first question always is, what are you going to use the quilt for? If it's going to be hung on the wall, then I'm going to direct them to a nice poly batting. But if it's a nice cuddly quilt and they would just want to wrap up in to watch TV, then maybe a wool or even a blend, but not quilted too close together. So it's all a balance between how fluffy is your batting and how close together do you want your quilting. So I had a note here. There it is. So that's primarily the types of batting we have. You can see some of the packages that Dawn's put out here. Dream Cotton, Dream Poly, a couple different weights in the packages. We even have the Dream Poly in the black. I find the black is quite a bit stiffer. It's definitely a wall hanging kind of batting, that one. So it's all about what you want it to do for you. Now, you will sometimes hear people ask, well, what about scrim? And you go, What's scrim? All right, I looked it up, so I know exactly what to tell you. Scrim, and our batting, none of the batting that we have here in the store has scrim, but it is still available, is a very thin layer of a plastic-like fiber. It's a non-woven fiber that is put onto the surface, one side of a scrimmed batting. Now, if this is our cotton, and if I take this and I pull it, it has a certain amount of stretch. I can deform it. I can make, I call them finger divots. If you pull it too hard, you get those little bubbles and pebbles and so on. Scrim is going to give your batting no stretch. It's going to make it stronger, and it means you can quilt quite a bit further apart, say 8 inches, as opposed to the 2 or 3 inches that most of us like. So there is a reason why you would want scrim. I find if you're gentle with your batting, it's not really necessary to have it, and I don't like the idea of having that layer of polyester in my, or plastic in my batting. If I have 100% cotton, I want 100% cotton in my batting. So that's the plus sides of having scrim, is it's going to give your batting a little bit more tensile strength. The downside is, of course, it's not a natural product. It's not heat resistant. So if you are using a batting with scrim, then you have to be careful not to iron on that scrim side because it can bubble and pucker. And obviously, if you like making, and I've made a few of them now, the microwavable bowls that we love to use, they're great things. You want 100% cotton batting. You don't want any scrim in there because you don't want it to melt in the microwave. So that is the types of batting that we are carrying. Now, don't throw out batting pieces. There's lots of things you can do with pieces of batting, even this size. It's almost a placemat size, definitely pin cushions. Tear it into chunks and stuff dog toys with it. If it's got the poly in it, you can make dusters. So batting never goes to waste. Save all those bits and pieces. I get people who ask, well, can I piece my batting? And yes, it's perfectly easy to piece batting, and it quilts up just as nicely. 2 things you want to pay attention to, though. If you're going to piece your batting, you want a nice straight edge, and you want to lay the other piece down so that it does not overlap. You just want it to line up straight. Now this is, I stretch this. This is a curve. So in order to get a straight line on that, I would overlap it. I would cut through both layers. I don't have to cut that straight. Peel away those little strips, and that line is going to match perfectly like this. You don't want your batting to overlap because it's going to make a thicker lump. Once you've got that lined up, let's try this other edge. That's not too bad. Once you've got that lined up, you can sew it together. Just a loose zigzag, just basically to tack it together. You can use batting tape, and it's basically a heat press strip of it's a fusible product. Right now, we are currently out of the white. We do have the black. Comes in various widths. If you really need the white, you could buy a 1/2 meter of a fusible interfacing, something like a Fusi-Knit that's got a little bit of give to it, and just cut it into a strip. Lay it down over your join and press it together. Then your batting is pieced. Ideally, try to piece similar batting weights. You don't want to have a really thick piece of batting and a really thin piece of batting in the same quilt. It's not going to behave the way you want it to. So yes, piecing batting is great. Save your scraps, make fun things out of them, including dust rags. This one needs replenishing. I didn't have time today. So we've got our batting, we've got it layered, and we're talking quilting on a domestic machine. So we want to talk just a wee bit about basting. If I'm working on a placemat or something this size, all I would do to baste that is put my backing fabric down on my ironing board and press it nice and flat. Then I would lay my batting on that and give it a little press, smoothing it out by hand. I might turn it over then and press it again, smoothing it out from the back side. Then I would lay my quilt top on. I call this iron basting. It's not fusing it down, but it's just the friction of moving the iron or your hand across it is enough to make it cling well enough on something this size that you can then take it to your machine and quilt it. Much bigger than that, you want to move into, and we have this available in the cotton and in the poly. This one happens to be the poly. You can buy a fusible batting. So you can't feel this on Facebook, but take my word for it, or come into the store and feel it. Batting side has a very fine layer of glue on this side. So you would lay that down on your ironing board. You would place your quilt backing on top of that, smooth it out, and press it together. It doesn't hold really tight. You can still peel it off and move it around, but it's enough to hold it together. Then you would lay your quilt top on top of that and either stitch it down or pin it down, however you need to hold it still. Again, depending on how big a quilt you're working on. If you're starting to work on a bigger quilt, you're going to want to pin it. The other thing that is a really great product, I use it all the time, 505, turn it around this way, 505 basting spray. This works similar to the glue on the fusible batting, but you don't have to press it. You just give it a light spray and things will cling. And it is possible then, if you need to reposition, you can pull things apart. But this works really, really well for basting. So it depends very much on the size of the project that you're working on. Placemats, table rudders, smooth them out, put a couple pins in. This panel that I did, like I say, it's probably 20 by 24. This guy, I pinned. So I didn't spray this one. I laid out the backing, pressed it well, pressed down my batting, put my quilt top on it, and I pinned it. So that way, and always when you go to quilt something like that at home, you're going to start in the center. You're going to quilt a bit and then check the back. Smooth it out. Fabric moves, fabric shifts, and you don't want to finish your whole project and turn it over and find you've got that big crease on the back side of it. So hopefully that answers some of your questions about batting. If you have any more, by all means, just send us a quick email. Stop by the store, come and fondle the batting. We always fondle the batting. And I can always advise you on what type of batting is going to be the best for the project you're working on. One little tip, I don't have any scraps of the wool out, maybe a little one. If you look in the magazines and you see those beautiful whole cloth quilts and the quilting just stands out and it's gorgeous, they cheat. It'll be a backing fabric, then a piece of poly batting, nice and flat, doesn't puff up, then a layer of fluffy wool batting, then the quilt top. When that's quilted, all of the puffiness kind of pushes to the top surface through the wool, because it can't push down through the polyester batting. And that's how you get all the lovely trapunto look on some of those things. So yeah, anytime you have questions about batting, you want to know what we carry or how much you need, by all means, whip us off a quick email or drop into the store. We'll be happy to talk to you. Until then, stay safe, stay calm, stay kind, and we will see you tomorrow.